Today, for the first time, we're finally putting Zoho Workplace head-to-head against Google Workspace. And what I found might save you $4,800 annually or reveal why that savings could cost you your professional reputation. We'll break down both platforms by looking at their features, usability, and security and privacy, and then we'll explore their speed and performance, and finally also, obviously, we're going to look at the pricing and overall value for money. So let's get right into it. Let's start with what we're actually comparing here. Zoho Workplace and Google Workspace are both all-in-one productivity suites. They're essentially built for businesses, freelancers, and anyone who needs more than just basic tools. And we're talking professional email and document editing, we're talking cloud storage, video calls, team collaboration, and essentially also a full ecosystem of connected apps to keep your work flowing, right? So Zoho Workplace has, for me at least, flown under the radar for the longest time, essentially. And the company behind it, Zoho, has been around since, I believe, 1996. And over the years, they've built a pretty massive suite of over 55 business apps. And what really impressed me during my testing of Zoho was discovering that it has been quietly, you could say, maturing over the years, and most features feel really fully developed. With any limitations that there might be in the front end can be easily addressed when you access their system through their robust API systems, and we're talking about that a little bit later. I was also particularly surprised to see how companies can run their entire operation from lead capture through essentially project completion to invoicing, all with Zoho's interconnected ecosystem. And as for Google Workspace, well, I don't think it really needs a lot of introduction, right? It is the productivity powerhouse that changed how we work online. And when I say we, I mean we here at CloudWords, because we've been using Google Workspace for the past 10 years or so, and we use it obviously a lot for our online publishing needs, from article writing to editing to sending out our newsletter, to even obviously cloud storage. And for us, Workspace has proven to be pretty scalable to my business needs. So when my team grows, my Google Workspace also grows. And when I have a smaller team, it also adjusts just as easily to the smaller team size. But being Google, obviously it has its downsides. They're basically forcing data analysis for service improvements into complex privacy policies, and then there is the constant pricing pressure. They've eliminated essentially free legacy accounts. They also force expensive AI upgrades and also discontinue products like Google Hangouts with very little warning, leaving businesses scrambling for alternatives, right? Here at CloudWords, to be honest, I'm running a pretty tight ship as a business owner. So I was thinking maybe, just maybe, I can get a better deal elsewhere, and that's where Zoho comes into play. Now, let's dig a little bit into the features. And yes, there are some significant differences between these two platforms. Now, Zoho Mail's entire approach is built around one core principle. Your email is your business, not theirs. They don't scan your emails for advertising, they don't use your data to improve their algorithms, and they've built features specifically for businesses that handle sensitive information. Their secure pass email lets you essentially send messages that can't be forwarded, printed, or downloaded. They literally self-destruct, Mission Impossible style. So you can set up email aliases for different departments, you can create shared folders that actually make sense and work offline without any setup required. But Gmail's approach creates a kind of different value proposition. They've turned your inbox into this AI-powered command center. There is Smart Compose, which finishes your sentences, There's Smart Reply, obviously, which suggests responses, and their spam detection uses machine learning to block threats. Through this, basically, this is a system that is pretty complicated. And for this to work successfully, it requires to analyze your emails, your email patterns, and your content. And even if they claim it's no longer used for advertising purposes, well, you gotta believe them, right? Now let's look at business integration. And this is where Zoho takes a fundamentally different approach than Google. Zoho didn't just build email and docs. They built a complete business operating system. And when you're writing a proposal, say in Zoho Writer, you can pull data directly from Zoho CRM without switching apps. Maybe you need to send an invoice. Well, you can do it right then and there from your email. Are you managing several projects? Well, Zoho Projects is built in right then and there. HR management with Zoho People. Well, you got it, right? It's all there. And here's the kicker. You can mix and match these services. So some employees get just email. Others get basically the full business suite. You assign and decide who gets what level of access in your organization. And during my testing, I set up a complete customer workflow. So a lead comes in through Zoho Forms, right? It gets automatically added to Zoho CRM and then receive the proposal created in Zoho Writer with pricing pulled from Zoho Invoice, and then gets managed everything through Zoho Projects, all sharing the same customer data seamlessly without switching apps or needing multiple subscriptions. Okay, Google's approach is completely different. They built amazing productivity tools and then said, well, let's let the marketplace fill the rest of the needs. You need a CRM? Well, you can integrate Salesforce or maybe even HubSpot. Are you in need of a project management tool? Well, add Asana or Monday.com. And their approach is, we'll handle the foundation. We'll do it really well. For example, the spam filters in the email. And third parties can handle your specialized business needs. And generally, I like this approach, right? I don't like software to do everything in one single solution, because if you are a jack of all trades, you're a master of none, as they say. And I find this always problematic, at least in the cloud storage field. Now, Zoho has proven to be a little bit of a different horse here, because it does all these things pretty well in my testing, and I have never felt the need to really switch it to any other applications. And it works really fine if you already have established workflows across multiple vendors, for example, when you use Google, right? Because then you already are subscribed to Monday.com. You are already subscribed to HubSpot. Maybe you are tied into longer term contracts that you just cannot quit that easily, right? But it also means, as I said before, you have to manage different contracts. You have to manage different security policies. And also you have to manage proper data synchronization between systems, which can be a little bit of a nightmare. So bottom line, Zoho dominates for essentially integrating business workflows, while Google forces you to become a system integrator, managing multiple vendors and relationships and pricing, and your bill is just piling up and up and up. You can spend easily a couple $100s for all these different apps per month, right? Now, as for AI, Zoho's AI assistant Zia is designed specifically for business workflows. It learns your email writing style. It essentially predicts which sales leads will convert based on your actual data, and it identifies spending anomalies in your expense reports. It's not trying to be everything to everyone. It's trying to make your specific business processes smarter. At least that's what my experience was, because I didn't find Zia to be extremely intrusive in my day-to-day work, but instead it made like these little smarter suggestions that I was sometimes missing in Google's Gemini. And speaking about Google's Gemini, which they essentially now force into all of their business plans, whether you want it or not, They can generate 8 seconds videos. Obviously, you can create presentations from text prompts. You can analyze complex data sets and provide contextual suggestions across all Google services. Now, yes, these capabilities are impressive, but you're paying for AI whether your business needs it or not. And frankly, after testing both, Gemini often feels like it's designed to impress rather than to solve a specific business problem, right? All right. Let's look at something very important if you are working in a remote team or in any company, right? And that is collaboration. Google literally invented modern real-time collaboration. And when I tested this with a 50-slide presentation, 4 team members could edit different sections simultaneously with changes appearing instantly. We had multiple cursors, we had comment threading, there is suggestion mode, revision history. They set the standard that everyone else tries to copy. But here's where I discovered Zoho's biggest weakness during testing. External collaboration is genuinely, let's call it problematic. When I tried sharing Zoho documents with clients outside our organization, the sharing links consistently ended up in spam folders because recipients don't recognize Zoho domains. And when clients did receive the links, they struggled with the unfamiliar interface, right? Often asking us to, oh, just send me a Google Doc, please. That's way easier for our people here. And this obviously is something that might create friction in your client relationship. And Google's universal recognition and brand recognition, everyone knows Google, simply doesn't have that. Everyone probably in any corporate environment has opened a Google Doc or a Google Sheet before. And that's what makes it so easy to use and so, frictionless, right? Now, instead of just letting everyone edit everything, they focus on workflow-based collaboration. Customer portals where clients can access specific projects documents is a very neat feature as well. Approval workflows for different document types and integration with business processes like invoicing and project management. Now, for storage and file management, Google Drive's search capabilities are genuinely superior. I mean, after all, Google is fundamentally a search company. So obviously, they just nail this, right? You can search for anything and pretty much find anything in your email, in your cloud storage. Everything is tied together. It can read text inside images. It can scan PDF documents, find files based on who shared them or when you last accessed them. And during my testing, I could search for example, contract Johnson March, right? And it would find the PDF contract from Johnson Industries that I'd only glanced at basically 3 months ago now. The mobile app syncs instantly and works seamlessly across devices. Zoho Work Drive, on the other hand, feels more like a traditional business file server, if you will, which isn't necessarily bad. Well, you get this granular permission controls. You can lock your files during edits so 2 people can't corrupt the same document. You have pretty reliable offline sync, and the ability to choose data storage locations for compliance requirements is actually something, especially for European companies or people who are based in the European Union, is pretty significant, right? Now, the mobile experience significantly lags behind Google's polish, especially if your team works primarily on phones and tablets. So before you commit to Zoho, make sure to check out the mobile applications to really know if it's your cup of tea. And here is where things get really interesting. During my speed test, Google Drive peaked at 32 megabytes per second for large file uploads, while Zoho Work Drive maintained consistent 12 megabytes per second speeds. Google is faster when you need to move large amounts of data quickly, but Zoho's consistency means you can reliably predict how long transfers will take. However, Zoho has a critical reliability issue that became apparent during extended testing. It encountered document corruption in complex spreadsheets. Now, files that would get stuck in loading loops and essentially couldn't be opened, they couldn't be copied or recovered from the version history. And when this happens with important business data, it is generally concerning and might cause you to panic a little bit. And obviously, we don't want that to happen. So with that out of the way, let's look at something crucial, especially if you work with, say, non-techie folks or non-techie employees, and this is usability. This is obviously where personal preference really matters, but there's some objective differences you should pretty much understand. Zoho Workplace feels like it was designed for business users who want powerful tools without flashy distractions, which I generally approve. I think I could sometimes use a little more eye candy, so to speak, in everyday use. But the interface definitely prioritizes function over form, and navigation gets you to your work very quickly rather than highlighting features you might really never use and that the company really wants to push at this point, say Google Gemini. And each app follows a consistent design pattern. So you learn basically, Mail, CRM feels quite familiar, and you know where the settings menu is, you know how to set it up essentially if you learn one application, even though there are 55 of them. But during my testing, I found power users hitting some kind of limitation. So the writer lacks advanced formatting options you'd find, for example, in Microsoft Word, and Sheets statistical data analysis tools are pretty basic compared to Excel's capabilities. Now, I don't want to compare apples and oranges here, but still Google Sheets and Google Docs is also superior in terms of writing and Excel capabilities. Okay, Google Workspace, let's look at that. Obviously, the benefits, as I mentioned before, come from interface familiarity. Most users, myself included, my team included, already know Gmail. Probably everyone in the world has a Gmail account now because of the generous email storage offering and the frictionless setup experience for Google Mail. And obviously Google Drive, that basically ties into that. So the learning curve essentially is minimal. The front-end interfaces are polished, and the mobile apps are genuinely, I would say best in class. There's very few things I could essentially criticize here, especially for an Android where Google feels obviously a bit more at home than on iOS. But here's Google's dirty little secret. While the user interface and the front-facing tools, I would say, are super intuitive, the admin console, for me, is a nightmare. Simple tasks like adding email aliases require navigating through dozens of nested menus and subpages. I spend 20 minutes just trying to find where to set up email forwarding, something that should really just take 2 clicks. It feels like Google's admin interface was designed by committee that really never actually had to use it, or by some developers who were just piling on features and features and features, and they were never talking to an interface designer that an actual business owner might want to use it to set up their system. So that is something I find horrendous for a company that large. So in my opinion, there is Google needs an overhaul of their Google Workspace backend because it is so complicated, and you need other consulting firms to actually help you set it up correctly. That's a no-no in my book. Zoho's admin interface is, on the contrary then, pretty straightforward. Business features like client portals and automated workflows are accessible without a lot of technical expertise, and you're getting business process automation, not just, say, productivity tools with complex configuration requirements. We also, now that we've covered the little interface issues with both software solutions, we need to tackle security and privacy. And this is where the platform's different business models become crystal clear, and where, there's a big divergence in terms of how your privacy and security is treated. Zoho's privacy policy is remarkably straightforward. They don't serve ads, they don't sell your data, and they make money by selling software subscriptions. This isn't just marketing speak, it's been their business model for 25 years. They implement AES 256-bit encryption for data at rest, TLS 1.3 for data in transit, and S-MIME encryption for email in their professional plan. Obviously, there's two-factor authentication. We have IP-based access controls, detailed audit logs, and you can choose your data storage location, which I mentioned before is super important if you are based in the European Union or any other country essentially outside the US. Google Workspace security could say leverages Google's massive infrastructure. Obviously, why wouldn't they? The systems, they're also all protecting Google Search, Gmail, and YouTube. So their advanced protection program can detect zero-day attacks using behavioral analysis, and data loss prevention automatically scans documents for sensitive information like credit card numbers or social security numbers. However, when I tested Google's security features for enterprise scenarios, I discovered a significant gap. During my evaluation, I found that Google's data loss prevention couldn't adequately classify and protect certain types of sensitive documents, things like detailed financial reports or proprietary technical specifications. Now, organizations handling this type of data often need to implement third-party proxy scanning solutions to meet compliance requirements for document classification and access control. And these additional security layers can cost tens of thousands of dollars annually and quickly eliminate Google's apparent value proposition. Google's privacy policy remains concerning for businesses handling sensitive data. While they claim not to use workspace data for advertising, the policy includes provisions for data analysis to improve services. So language pretty much broad enough to drive trucks through. For security and privacy, Zoho wins on business model transparency and straightforward data handling, while Google wins on advanced threat detection, but potentially requires expensive additional security layers. Now, let's talk speed and performance. I put both platforms through comprehensive testing with real business workflows. For video conferencing, and this is critical, Zoho Meeting has persistent quality issues that could damage your professional reputation. During multiple test calls, I experienced choppy video, delayed audio, and connection problems that made meetings genuinely difficult to conduct at times. And this isn't a recent problem. I found user complaints about Zoho's video quality dating back years without meaningful resolution. And if client video calls are essential to your business, this limitation could be deal-breaking. But then again, there are other good free alternatives for online meetings that you can replace that with if all other things in the Zoho features meet your requirements for data storage, for cloud collaboration, and the like. Now, obviously, when we look at Google Meet, by contrast, it provides reliable HD video and audio quality that your clients will expect, right? So, and the difference in terms of the quality and reliability is night and day. But we also looked at file performance, and Google Drive handles 5 gigabytes of mixed files in 6 minutes of uploads and 7 minutes for downloads. So Zoho Drive took 8 minutes for both uploads and downloads, but maintained more consistent speeds throughout the process. Okay, and then we have document performance, which reveals another concerning issue. Google Sheets becomes practically unusable with complex presentation. So I tested 50-plus slide presentations that had multi-second pauses when changing slides to the point where it's generally really frustrating to use. And for large, complex documents, both platforms have limitations, but in different ways, right? The real performance difference comes down to scale and consistency. So Google performs better at peak loads, but can be inconsistent. And Zoho provides steadier performance, but I would say at lower maximum speeds. Now, let's talk monies, right? Value for money. What do you get? How much do you have to pay? Well, it becomes really important if you look at Google's forced AI integration and how Google has increased prices. And here's the reality, right? For a 50-person company, Zoho Workplace Professional costs you $3,600 annually, while Google Workspace Business Standard now would cost $8,400. And that's a $4,800 difference every single year. But these numbers require a little bit of context. Google's pricing includes Force Gemini AI featured. They're essentially bundled as of January 2025. They also give you unlimited version history and enterprise-grade security tools like data loss prevention. And with Zoho, you get S/MIME encryption and e-discovery in the professional plan, but advanced security controls and endpoint management require additional purchases at $2 to $5 per user per month. Zoho's real pricing advantage comes from flexibility and ecosystem integration. You can mix different plan levels within the same organization. So executives get professional features while assistants use basic mail-only plans. And if you need complete business functionality, Zoho One provides CRM, project management, accounting, and HR tools for $37 per user per month, achieving equivalent functionality with Google Workspace, plus a third-party integration, which typically costs $80, $120 per users per month, depending on the suite that you're using. Obviously, you're using Salesforce, it might cost you even more. Google Workspace provides value through ecosystem integration. We talked about the AI capabilities, and we talked about the infrastructure reliability. So if your team already lives in Google services, the productivity gains from seamless integration might justify the premium pricing. And if you're watching this video, you probably already use Google Workspace, right? And you're thinking, maybe I should really switch to this alternative. We have the AI features. They are expensive, but they can accelerate email composition and document analysis. And Gemini is a pretty advanced AI, especially when it comes to writing your actual content. An AI that a lot of other companies have struggled to meet the quality. However, I discovered a troubling pattern in Google's enterprise support during my research. Businesses experiencing critical issues have reported support cases lasting weeks or months without resolution, causing really genuine operational disruption. When you're paying premium prices, this level of support failure is unacceptable. And this is something where Zoho really shines. Yes, when you get Zoho support agents, most of the time they are from India, but I found them generally very friendly and they would help you with any problems that you might have in a very short amount of time. So Zoho definitely wins here in the customer support department. But who wins this showdown? Now, my honest recommendation after testing both services and using Google Workspace for about 10 years now, I would say choose Zoho Workplace if you're building an integrated business process from scratch. So maybe in your current business, you don't already have a project management solution. You're not sure about your invoicing system. You want to rebuild everything from the ground up. This is your chance to do this very cost efficiently without interrupting your current business setup, right? It will control your costs, your tool costs. It will protect your data privacy, and it will also give you a unified CRM and project management capabilities. If, and obviously that's a big if you can accept the limitations in video conferencing quality and external collaboration. But for video conferencing, as I said, there are other tools that you can use that are mostly free and still give you a very solid experience. You should probably choose Google Workspace if your team already depends on the Google ecosystem, right? If you have already set up everything in Google Workspace, including roles, including email aliases, including everything that's required to make Google Workspace secure and working flawlessly, then switching to Zoho just because of a couple bucks saved per month, I don't know about it. It really depends on how your other systems look like, how many other different tools you have, and whether you really want to save all those costs from these additional tools like a project management tool. So, also it depends if real-time document collaboration is mission critical, and we mentioned this before. If you need reliable video conferencing is also essential for your client relationships, and you frequently share files and documents with external partners, or you're willing to pay premium prices for the polished user experience and advanced AI capabilities, then Google Workspace is a solid choice. Now, the biggest surprise in my testing was realizing these platforms solve fundamentally different problems. Zoho built a complete business operating system that happens to include productivity tools, and Google built excellent productivity tools and expects you to integrate everything else yourself. Neither platform is universally superior, And success depends basically on matching the platform strengths to your specific business requirements, as I've mentioned before. The real winner might be testing essentially both platforms with their free trials using your actual business workflows. And both companies provide migration tools, so switching isn't really as painful as you might expect, though choosing correctly up front saves significant time and training investments. And we have the links down in the description box below, so you can check out the free trials of both services, or at least of Zoho, if you haven't tried that already. So, what productivity suite are you using, and how important is cost savings versus feature completeness for your business decisions? Well, let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more reviews that cut through the marketing noise. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.